The parking lot behind a glittering corporate tower in downtown Houston shimmered under the late evening lights. Expensive cars lined the polished concrete, their glossy surfaces reflecting the city skyline. Most employees had already gone home, leaving behind only a few security guards and the quiet cleaning staff who worked after hours. Among them was Maria Alvarez, a janitor who preferred the silence of night shifts. She moved steadily between rows of vehicles, collecting trash and pushing her cart with calm focus. Moments later, the glass doors of the building burst open. Richard Halston, a powerful real estate millionaire known for his ruthless business style, stormed into the parking lot. His jaw was tight, and his phone was still in his hand from a heated argument. He walked straight toward his brand new black luxury sedan and suddenly froze. A long scratch ran across the driver's side door, deep enough to catch the light. "What is this?" he shouted into the empty air. His voice echoed sharply. Security guards hurried over, but none had answers. Halston's anger only grew. He had spent years building his empire and expected perfection in every detail of his life. A scratch on his car felt like a personal insult. Then his eyes landed on Maria. She was the only person nearby, wearing a plain gray uniform and holding a mop. To him, she seemed like an easy target, someone with no power to defend herself. "You," he barked, pointing at her. "Did you do this?" Maria looked up slowly, surprised but composed. "No, sir," she replied respectfully. "I just came outside a few minutes ago." Halston stepped closer, invading her space. "Don't lie to me. You people are always careless." The insult hung heavy in the air. Maria felt the familiar sting of being underestimated, but her expression did not change. She had faced harsher words in her life. Years ago, she had worn a different uniform, serving in the United States Army. She had trained in combat zones, endured extreme conditions, and learned discipline under pressure. After leaving the military to care for her sick mother, she chose a simple job that paid the bills quietly. She never spoke about her past, she didn't need recognition. Halston, blinded by rage, suddenly grabbed her throat. His hand tightened as if he could force a confession through intimidation. "You think I won't call the police?" he hissed. Maria's heart rate remained steady. Training took over. She assessed his stance, the pressure of his grip, the position of his feet. She didn't panic. Panic was dangerous. Control was power. Her eyes locked onto his, not with fear, but with calculation. Around them, security cameras blinked silently, recording every second. The guards hesitated, unsure how to intervene with such an influential figure involved. Maria didn't struggle wildly. Instead, she inhaled carefully, conserving air, waiting for the perfect moment. The millionaire believed he was in control. He believed money gave him authority over everyone around him. He had no idea that the woman he held by the throat had once survived battlefields far more intense than a corporate parking lot. And he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. For a brief second, the parking lot felt frozen in time. Richard Halston's fingers tightened around Maria's throat, his breathing heavy with anger. He expected resistance, maybe tears, maybe begging. Instead, he saw something that unsettled him, absolute calm. Maria waited. She shifted her weight slightly, grounding her feet the way she had been trained years ago. Her mind moved quickly, calculating angles and timing. The guards stood several steps away, nervous and uncertain. The security cameras above continued recording silently. Then she acted. With controlled precision, she drove her forearm upward against his wrist while pivoting her body sideways. The sudden movement broke his grip instantly. Before he could react, she stepped behind him, twisting his arm carefully but firmly behind his back. It wasn't wild or vengeful, it was disciplined, practiced, and efficient. Within seconds, the powerful millionaire found himself forced down onto one knee. A sharp gasp escaped him. Shock replaced fury. "Let go of me," he shouted, struggling, but every attempt only tightened the controlled hold she had on him. Maria leaned slightly closer, her voice steady and low. "I don't want to hurt you," she said calmly. "But you will not touch me again." Her words carried authority, not the authority of wealth, but of experience. The security guards quickly stepped forward now, realizing the situation had completely shifted. One of them gently took over restraining Halston as Maria released him and stepped back. She adjusted her uniform collar as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Halston's face burned with humiliation. "Do you know who I am?" he snapped, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Yes," Maria replied simply. "But that doesn't give you the right to assault someone." By now, a small group of late-working employees had gathered near the entrance, whispering in disbelief. Someone mentioned the cameras. Another guard confirmed everything had been recorded clearly from multiple angles. The police were called. As officers arrived, Halston tried to regain control of the narrative, accusing Maria of attacking him. But the guards calmly informed the officers about the footage. Maria gave her statement without exaggeration. She didn't mention her military background unless asked directly. When one officer noticed her controlled movements and asked if she had prior training, she answered briefly, "Former U.S. Army." The officer nodded with quiet respect. By the next morning, the video had circulated internally among company executives. Word spread quickly. Investors who had already been wary of Halston's temper saw undeniable proof of his behavior. Within days, board members demanded accountability. Legal complaints were filed. His carefully polished public image began to crack. Maria, however, returned to work the next evening as usual. She pushed her cleaning cart through the same quiet halls, head held high but without prideful display. Some employees looked at her differently now, not with pity, but with admiration. She didn't seek revenge. She didn't celebrate his downfall. She simply believed in dignity. In the end, Halston learned a lesson he had never been forced to confront before: power without respect is fragile. And the quiet janitor he once dismissed had shown more strength than all his wealth combined. The story did not end in the parking lot. Within a week, the board of Halston Developments called an emergency meeting. Investors had seen the footage. Legal advisors warned that the assault case could cost millions, not just in settlements, but in reputation. For years, rumors of Richard Halston's temper had been quietly ignored because profits were strong. But this time, the evidence was undeniable. Under pressure, Halston was forced to step down as CEO pending investigation. News outlets picked up the story. Headlines focused on the shocking twist: a millionaire publicly restrained by a janitor with military training. Social media debates exploded about power, privilege, and accountability. Some people mocked him. Others praised Maria's composure. But Maria herself stayed silent. When reporters attempted to approach her outside the building, she declined interviews. "I'm just doing my job," she told one journalist politely. That's all. Inside the company, something began to shift. Employees who once avoided speaking up about unfair treatment started filing complaints. Human resources reopened old cases. A culture that had been built on fear slowly began facing change. One evening, as Maria finished mopping the marble lobby floor, she noticed someone waiting near the reception desk. It was Mr. Howard Grant, a senior board member known for being quiet but fair. "Ms. Alvarez," he said respectfully, "may I speak with you for a moment?" She nodded. "I want to apologize," he continued. "Not just for what happened, but for what was allowed to happen. No employee should feel unsafe here." Maria studied his face carefully. She had learned long ago to judge sincerity through actions, not words. "We're reviewing company leadership," Grant added. "And we're implementing new workplace policies. Your courage forced us to confront something we ignored for too long." Maria didn't see herself as courageous. To her, it had simply been necessary. "Respect should never depend on job title," she replied quietly. Grant gave a small nod. "You're absolutely right." A month later, Halston officially resigned. Lawsuits moved forward. Financial losses followed, but the company survived under new leadership. Training programs on workplace conduct became mandatory. Security protocols were strengthened. As for Maria, she was offered a position in corporate security after her military background became known more widely. The salary was better, the hours steadier. She considered it carefully. But in the end, she accepted, not for money, but for purpose. On her first day in the new role, she stood in the same parking lot where everything had changed. The evening lights reflected off the cars just as they had that night. But the atmosphere felt different. Lighter. One of the younger employees approached her nervously. "I just wanted to say, thank you," he said. "Because of you, things are better here." Maria gave a small smile. Strength, she knew, wasn't about domination. It wasn't about proving superiority. It was about protecting dignity, your own and others. The millionaire once believed power came from wealth and influence. But in the end, it was discipline, character, and quiet resilience that truly defined strength. And that lesson would last far longer than any fortune ever could.